Welcome to SEL in EDU.
where we discuss all things social and emotional in education.
I'm Krista.
And I'm Craig, and we are your hosts on this journey.
Hello, SEL and EDU family. We are back again working on season 3. It's probably February around this time that we're releasing this one, and we have another amazing guest for you, a very special guest. And I'll let Craig introduce him because we've really been looking forward to this opportunity to chat with our individual friend here. But Craig, how are you doing today? What's on your heart?
Oh gosh, it is the excitement and enthusiasm that we're in 2024. 2023 was very jam-packed with a lot of really great things that have happened, from getting married and actually seeing a lot of bucket lists and dream things happen. Maybe we'll talk about it more in our deeper view when we talk a little bit more about some of our reflections on where we are. But really excited about it, and the year has been incredible so far. And I am excited about our guest today.
Yes. Yeah. And I love that you talked about what's coming up because by the time this comes, I'll be gearing up for some international trips. So I just got on and I did the little application for global entry. So I guess it makes it smoother when you're coming back into the US. So I'm looking forward to some travel coming up. And I'm excited. Maybe we can talk to our guest as well, because I have a feeling you're going to be seeing and hearing quite a bit of him around the United States.
Absolutely.
Hey, Craig, why don't you, without further ado,
We have with us Mr. Deshaun Washington, sorry, fourth grade inclusion teacher at the Maria Hastings Elementary School in Lexington, Massachusetts. He was named Massachusetts Teacher of the Year for 2024. He is actually the first Black male to become Massachusetts Teacher of the Year and the fourth from Lexington, which is pretty amazing. And he's actually up for National Teacher of the Year. What I'm excited about are just some of the incredible accolades that have been shared about Mr. and soon to be Dr. Washington being an incredible champion for young people, someone who continues to build and cultivate the kind of environment where not only that his young people, his scholars thrive, but his colleagues around him also do so. And as we talk today, I'm hoping that he'll talk a little bit more about like the student leadership team that he has developed. I'm excited to also learn a little bit more about how is he cultivating some strong citizens in his care and under his instruction. Some His superintendent said that Mr. Washington's commitment to building a joyful learning community is an asset to the school and the district. Also shared Superintendent Hackett says that he's an exceptional teacher who inspires his students to work hard and contribute to one another's success. But I think it's what he shares about his experience and how he sees this work, which I believe is an incredible calling. Uh, Mr. Washington says, as a teacher, advocate, student, and a cultivator of young change makers, it is my duty to continuously learn how to empower my students to not only master grade level standards, but to be upstanding individuals with the capacity to ignite change in their communities. Without further ado, and we're excited to welcome Deshaun Washington. How is your heart today, sir?
Oh my goodness, that's the greatest introduction I've ever had in my life. I'm beyond words right now. I'm listening to everything that was shared, Craig, and I'm like, oh wow, like I really did say that. And wow, I really have accomplished all of this that is being shared right now. Because when you're in the hustle and bustle, right? Like you don't sometimes you have tunnel vision. You're just focused on what's the next objective. It's not always that we get a chance to reflect back on our achievements and our successes. And I think that's the first lesson in this story that we're going to be talking about today is taking the opportunity to celebrate the good that we're doing in this work. And so I'm just grateful to hear all this great stuff and what is to come because there's so much more coming out. So Craig, Krista, thank you so much for just having me and just I can't wait to share the story with you all today.
Okay. Well, I mean, what has the this week been for you? I'm not sure whether or not people have a good sense of for a teacher of the year. Are you still in the classroom? Do you have a sub who's in there? How are you balancing out all of the opportunities that are coming with sharing your story and sharing the impact and sharing your gifting with the world, but also from what at least from what I want to believe of you, that it's also hard to leave the classroom because your young people, like they're part of that fire that wakes you up and starts you on your day. So I'm just kind of curious, what has the week been for you?
Absolutely. So week to week is still the focus is still in that classroom. So I think that's the biggest joy of it all is that I get to continue the story with the students that I'm working with here in fourth grade. I'll tell you real quick. I had these students back in third grade as well. So I'm looping with my students up to fourth grade. That means I'm following the same students from one grade to the next. So in third grade, these students, they saw the whole process of me becoming teacher of the year from the application to me asking students to write recommendations for me, teachers writing recommendations, having the big camera come into the classroom and people observing us as we're doing teaching and learning together. People coming in and visit our classroom, interviews. So they got the chance to see the whole story
Hmm.
literally from the beginning in third grade all the way to the end in fourth grade and be able to celebrate that with them in particular, I think is a very special time because really I have 25 eyewitnesses of the account of what cultivating change makers is all about, what it means to build a community that is full of trust, building a relationship, working together to build accountability and responsibility with each other. It's a beautiful thing that in itself. So staying with the classroom and staying in the classroom, I think is the biggest joy. But I also have a service as well. Being Massachusetts Teacher of the Year requires me to go out into the world and really expose some of the great teachers, some of the great students that we have in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So I'm going into different classrooms. I'm literally taking pictures and talking with teachers all over the Commonwealth and being able to sit down with them in a classroom and be able to observe and be able to just celebrate what great learning is happening all around our schools, all around our public schools and be able to see that firsthand really ignites my passion to continue this work, right? Because when you have the work of being a teacher, you become honed into your classroom, maybe your grade level, you're familiar with that area, maybe your content if you teach a higher grade. But when you go from school to school, right? You're seeing how different schools operate, different cultures operate, and you start to take a little bit of nips that you got from each of these other places and like, wow, there's still even more growing for me to do as a leader. And that's the great thing about teaching, right? Is that, as I go out and do this Massachusetts Teacher of the Year thing and seeing different classrooms, is that I'm a learner too. I'm pouring water in my own seed, right? I'm still growing every single day. And that's, I think, is the biggest thing. I'm learning from these other teachers, modeling what it means to be a learner firsthand. And so that's the coolest part of it all. But to answer the question fully, still in the classroom, and I have other duties as well. Podcast appearances, interviews, observing classrooms, DC, California, my doctorate program in Nashville, all types of stuff going on. And we still doing it all with the joy at the heart. You know what I'm saying?
And I see that you also support other educators doing MTEL prep. You're
Yeah.
doing diversity, equity, inclusion work. You're deeply involved in the church community and the faith community as well. I mean, I don't know how you do it, but I am grateful that I get to stand alongside you in this work. and continue to find myself inspired as I'm learning more layers about your drive, your passion, and just the different ways that you're really pouring yourself in back into communities and inspiring folks who are really questioning whether or not this is the thing, like, do they want to continue the journey? And so I know that Chris is going to jump in a second, but I'm also curious, being the first Black male, I was actually one of the very few Black male principals of the year, elementary principals of the year for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And it's, a number of people came and talked to me about their their curiosities, their wonderings with things, uh, a lot of inspiration that meant for them. And I'm just curious what has this meant for you in being a Black male in the state of Massachusetts, and just what has been some of the reactions about that?
There's so many things to reflect on this question statement. I'm gonna do my best to get through everything. I think first and foremost, right, when it comes to how I'm doing all these different things, I think it really starts with, as you mentioned briefly, the faith piece, being grounded in faith and being grounded in terms of my ability to um, engage in the word each day and just pray and meditate, take time away from the work, right? And be able to replenish myself. It's almost like you're going to the gas station and you have to fill up the car, from empty back to full. Because doing this on an empty tank, you're gonna break down. And once you break down, I mean, when the body breaks down, you're going to break down. It doesn't matter if you're young, seasoned, experienced, it doesn't matter. You're gonna break down. So I do my best each day to replenish myself faithfully each day and prayerfully each day. So that when I go out into the world, I'm able to do the service of giving back to the community. And speaking of giving back to the community, right? Being a Black man in particular, one of my biggest passions and goals of this work is being able to amplify the voice of the Black male teacher in particular. That's really what I'm really excited about because, you know, we have in Massachusetts less than 2% of all of our teachers is Black men. Yet research shows that Black men, it doesn't matter what grade we're talking about, what content you're talking about. When you have a Black male in that classroom, all students, don't, it doesn't matter what gender, doesn't matter what race, all students, their performance increase, achievement occurs. So I want to make sure I go out into Boston and Worcester and Springfield, Black teachers that I know that's out in those areas, in other areas as well, to be able to share with the world the impact that Black men are having in our schools, especially then in elementary school, where you don't really see a whole lot of men in particular in elementary schools, but then also to share that Black men in the early education, K-2, 3 to 5, they're in those classrooms making a big time change. That's like one of the biggest joys of doing this work is being able to recognize that, hey, there's Black men that help build my teaching capacity up. When I was young and learning how to do this teaching work, it was Black men like Dwayne Nunez and Jonathan Scott and Sean Guthrie, brothers who literally allowed me to go under their wing when I couldn't even stand on my own 2 feet, helped me to become a strong teacher. And now I'm able to share that love out to other Black men and other teachers all around the Commonwealth. So it's a really great joy, and to be able to empower teachers as well, being able to support them with their MTELs and helping them to study and become licensed teachers and have a high pass rate over 90% and have testimonies for the last 7 years of people who went through my course, passed the tests, and became astounding teachers. I mean, this is the joy of being able to serve, right? Like all those fruits that you're able to see out in the world now and know that you had a little hand on that along the way is a beautiful thing. And it's a humbling experience too, because it's a resemblance of what God put us here to do. It's just to go out and serve, to love. That's the beautiful thing, is to
Yeah.
go out to express love into the world, you know?
You actually hit on something that I was going to bring up. I'm remarried now, but was a single mom of young boys,
Mhm.
and I loved when there were men in their elementary school years. And so both of you being elementary leaders in the classroom, in the building, I loved knowing that my boys were exposed to positive male role models when they were younger. And so thank you both for doing that. I don't know how many people who might have been in a situation like I was that, it's just, you always want to have your kids surrounded by good role models. And I think that, when you look at elementary too, there's not that many men who are there. And so thank you for being that role model for our boys. And when I was listening to one of the other podcasts around some of the culture, the way that you set up your classroom, I was just like, my SEL heart was melting. I was a secondary teacher. And so teaching high school, it's very different working with elementary, but so much needs to happen in elementary to prepare them for not only life, but for those next levels. And you talked about, there's just a couple things that really resonated with me. One, that you're exposing them to different cultures outside of their classroom. So we talk about, we want a classroom to represent mirrors and windows and doors. And you talked about having a land acknowledgement, how the students got to be part of creating that constitution. And I loved how they picked that they wanted to be the alligator. And so I'd love to hear a little bit about, it came down to being an alligator or a cobra. And so I'm curious. I'm not a snake person at all. I don't like animals that don't have legs. There's just, yeah. So I'm really happy they went with the alligator, but I'm curious about what that conversation was like. And Craig, are
Yeah.
you
So
because of being in New Orleans, and have you wrestled an alligator before down there?
nah, I got you, Chris. So actually, the alligator name, right? It actually came 7 years ago when I first started teaching. So I was at Young Achievers K-8 Pilot School in Mattapan in Boston. And at that school, right, they have like every teacher has like a classroom name is built around an animal. I don't like alligators. I didn't like cobras either. My favorite animals like turtles, that was gone. Lions, gone. Tigers, gone. All these animals I really wanted, gone. Everyone already had them. So like I had to kind of go like, all right, so what's next? I don't know what else is next. Eagles was gone. So I'm like, all right. I asked my students, so this is my first year teaching. I asked my students, what should our classroom animal name be? And so like there was like a list of animals. And then it became a debate between the alligators and cobras. The image of the cobra I thought was like really cool looking. It was like a really nice looking cobra with like with the tongue sticking out. I thought it was like really tight. And then there's the alligator as well. It's just like a really like strong bite. And there was a vote, and then alligators won that vote. And so it just stuck over the years. I think it just had like a nice little ring to the name. It builds like this team spirit where we're all on the same team. So no matter if I was in Boston or in Lexington, where I'm currently at now, the name stuck, because it's like everyone's really buying into a team for that year that they're on together. And then you become part of a community where you do want to invest more into your classroom space when you feel that you're empowered by your voice, you're being heard, you're being seen, you're being valued. Your voice becomes amplified when you're able to help construct a constitution of what each student needs to be successful from their voice, from their point of view. And then to have the students also to write that constitution and then post it up with every student signing off on it creates accountability, right? So as you're creating a team for success, each member of the team has their duty, what they're going to do in order to maintain safe, supportive, respectful, responsible, this joy factor that's in the middle. And then how we making sure that each student is being seen, valued, and heard in a community space. So we do that by having what we call open circles, where we do like activity games, we do shout outs, opportunities with just having like conversations too. Like if anything comes up in the school, we have those type of conversations where we're just wrestling with an idea and how we feel about it. Sometimes it's just good to give students an opportunity to talk about things that happen and that they may not otherwise have the space to do so. We also have what we call restorative circles. This is when we have like classroom conflicts or stuff might happen outside of recess or something like that, and you're creating a space where For those students, the people who were involved, they're able to have a conversation with each other. And we have like a little talking piece. I'm using like a pen right now. It's like a talking piece that they would use then to go back and forth to share their truths, their perspectives of what happened. And it allows them to first understand the other person's perspective, then be understood of what their mindset was. And then this allows for everyone to kind of get that, oh, aha, I got it. I understand why you did what you did. Still was wrong, but I understand why. And then they could get to this place of what we want to do is forgiveness. We don't want students to hold grudges, but we want students to feel that they're empowered to forgive and to be able to forgive in a way that they're able to allow the season to be an opportunity for them to learn about what happened so they don't repeat again. So I love the restorative circle piece. We also have another thing called the thinking chair. It's like a chair in the classroom. And occasionally, this would be like the opposite of like maybe like a restorative circle where a student might come up and say, hey, I pushed another kid at recess and I want to apologize to them, but I don't know how to do that. Then we all actually come together and give that student strategies like, hey, we think that you might want to include a mutual friend. Is there a mutual friend that can get y'all together? Maybe you should consider writing a letter instead of maybe going up to them today. Maybe today's not the right day, but maybe write a letter, leave it in their locker or what have you. And then we'll say like, all right, we'll give you like a day or so to try one of these strategies out. Let's meet back again tomorrow in the same chair. Let's talk about this. So it allows for students to also game plan and strategize. Like when I do make a mistake, how do I go about cleaning this up so I can apologize to them? So those are just some of the things that we do in the classroom. And we also have an empathy circle as well, which is like in a classroom of 24, we have like pockets of 4 students and they do like certain activity games and structured activities, what have you. The idea of the empathy circle is for students to really build a deeper connection with 3 other students in the community space. So if anything happens during the year, like they actually have people that they build a close bond with throughout the year that they can lean into, talk about things and, help solve problems. So that's what we try to do in our community space, the alligator community space. And I think that's the essence that then leads into academic learning. When students feel that they have the ability to make mistakes, be able to grow from the mistakes, and it's enables them to take ownership of those mistakes and then be able to become better citizens in our community environment.
Yeah, I really admire those processes and you sharing those specifics because sometimes people aren't sure where to start. And I can tell you from those same things could still work in a high school.
Mhm.
Like those same strategies, people are like, oh, well, high school kids should know this by now. No, some adults don't know this right now. Some days I don't know this
Mhm.
upon what my day is like. Like there are days when I mess up too, and I'm like, oh, I don't know what I'm going to do about this. I know I need to fix it. I know I need to take accountability, but I'm not sure the way to go about it. And I'm like, this thinking chair, that's fantastic. Like, bring some other people on board to help you. You don't have to hold that on your own. And I think about too that forgiveness piece and letting go of grudges because that when you're holding on to stuff like that, that consumes people. And you've mentioned many times about joy
Sure.
and exuding that. And if I can just ask you to clarify that a little bit, because you mentioned a couple pieces that really resonated with me about joy coming from the inside versus some of the other things that we talk about in schools. And so, if you don't mind kind of sharing that with our audience as well, because I think it was really impactful.
Absolutely. So this is this concept of joy versus happiness, and I think when we think about both of them, both joy and happiness, this is a beautiful thing. I would like if in the ideal world, wish we was always happy, wish we was always walking in that joy. The cool thing is that we can actually hold on to joy in every circumstance. I think of happiness as like circumstantial. Something happens outside of the environment, we feel a certain way from it. Sometimes that is this thing called happiness, and that's great. We want to make sure that we're happy. And then other times we might have other emotions too. Like if we hear there's a death, we might not have such a happy response to that. It might be a different response, tears or anger or something. Joy is from the heart. It's from the soul, it's from the spirit, right? And the real cool, powerful thing I tell my students is joy is something that not a person could take away from you. It's a selection that you're able to maintain even in situations where you feel less than happy, right? You could still have this thing called joy. And you might be in a situation where it may not be the most happiest of situation because it's ingrained in the heart. It's the foundation of how you operate each day. And I think that's like really a big thing for kids to really walk away with. Is like it's a choice that I can have, and it's something that's internalized within me, right? And so I tell my students all the time, like, hey, we're all gonna go through stuff. I want to prepare you now for this world. You're gonna go through some stuff, and there's gonna be days you ain't happy about it. I'm just letting you know this now. This is and when I tell them this, they're like, "Oh, Mr. What?" But then they go through something, and they say like, "Oh, now I understand." Because even though this situation made me feel a certain way, I still did feel joyful on the inside as well, about how my life is going. I'm still grateful about some of the other aspects of my life. I still have this home that I get to go to. Like, Mr. Washington, thank you for reminding me about those other elements that I still have. And and I think that's really important for all of us to really take away too, as we're thinking about our own health, our own mental health, our physical health, our spiritual health, is recognizing that there are some choices that we're blessed to make. That joy that comes in the heart, that's a beautiful thing that we can hold on to and recognize too, and prepare that, hey, not every day is going to be easy. Not every day is going to bring the most smile to our face in every particular moment. And if we recognize this early and recognize that there's this other thing called joy that nobody could take away, no circumstance could take away, and believe that to be the case, we'll be able to make it through even the toughest of days that is lies ahead for all of us in the classroom. So, yeah, I think that was like the philosophy behind the joy and the happiness piece. We all want to be happy at all times. We recognize that, but we know we live in a world that's not always going to be the case. Joy we can have internalized in the heart.
Well, I got excited and ignited by it, and I went and found Black Joy, Stories of Resistance, Resilience, and Restoration by Tracy Michael, I think Lewis Giggets. And Tracy talks about Black Joy being a liberatory strategy. And that I was trying to remember, I wanted to make sure I thought about, she shared like an initial in the initial chapters of her book, she talks about an observation of her daughter going out and say, "Hey, mommy, can we go out into the rain? And can we go and just play in the rain?" And she took a moment to say, "Well, I'm a Black woman, and I got a Black daughter who is going out into the rain." So you just think about the hair element, alone. But what she said was that that was an act of radical joy, but also an act of radical reimagining. That it can be daring, it can be defiant, and what I I guess bring this all full circle for young people today who carry so much. We're still navigating through the pandemics because it's more than one. Our young people feel everything, and
Yeah.
people they don't always give our young people, especially our babes, credit that sometimes even if the kids don't have language, say they know something in the atmosphere is or is not right. And
Mm,
so they're trying to pull the tools they can in order to find themselves being okay. And when you talk about joy, especially in the context of losing someone, experiencing trauma, the food deserts and food insecurities, housing insecurities, and transitions that some of our young people have to deal with. And some of them are systems involved. So they have multiple entities that are involved in their caregiving. And sometimes that thing of joy is hard to reconcile. Like,
yes.
how do I find joy? But when they have a Mr. Washington in the classroom, you just your existence is radical and revolutionary, and magical and memorable and immeasurable, as a secretary Tutwiler said, characterized you in some of his remarks. I am curious, how are you centering joy for yourself as a self-care measure?
Absolutely, absolutely. What's really powerful is that, joy is a love thing too. And so that means that it's loving to myself to make sure that I'm joyfully taking care of myself in order to serve you, in this work, right? So one of the things I like to do, beyond just the classroom space in terms of how do I take care of myself joyfully, is I like to do things that's not related to the work. So I like to do intramural sports, football, kickball, dodgeball, activities that allows me to run around and play freely. Even if I don't know how to play the sport, I play it because it allows me to be in a new environment around people, and it just gives me an opportunity to have some laughs, play with strategy to think about winning. But most importantly, I think it's just to be infused with, again, people who just for an hour just escaping their stresses of life, just to have a good time playing some football, playing some kickball, dodgeball. So that's one of the things. I alluded to this before. From a spiritual standpoint, I like to begin in my day in prayer, and I like to begin in my day in the word as well. And the reason for that is it grounds me to understand what I am called to do as a teacher, as a leader, as a servant. Because that's really what this work of teaching is to serve, right? I'm serving children, people who are developing into their own becoming, right? So as I'm
Mm,
serving our children, I need to know what the steps are. I don't want to lead students astray. I need to set them into the groundworks of what they're going to be doing in life. And so we talk about this all the time about like, hey, kids, need you all to start thinking about what your purpose is. What's in your passion that you want to do for your life? Yes, you need to start thinking about this at 9, 10, right? Because before you know it, you're 18, 19, 20, and you're still trying to figure things out. So I need you to start planting the seed now. I'm going to plan a little bit for you because I'm only going to be around you for a little while. But I need you to start thinking about this along the way. What is the end goal? What are you called to do in serving the world around you and helping this world be a better place? And that's always fueling for me, just as a person, to be able to think about how I can make sure to put every child in this situation where they're moving steps forward towards their purpose. But to do that, I have to also make sure I'm grounded in what the calling is for me as a servant, to continue to give back and continue to give others. So that humbles me, but that also puts me in a perspective where I could do the work with a clear vision, right? Because sometimes what happens is I got like this planner, and it's like filled with a whole bunch of like color coded like stuff on here, right? And it's like you can easily get lost in a planner that has a whole bunch of stuff on here because it's just a lot of busy work. But really, the planner is an opportunity to structure the steps of service. So that way I know what my call is, what I need to do, how to do that for the people I'm around. And of course, besides that, hey, who doesn't like to just sit down and just chill out for a couple hours? Sometimes doing nothing is some of the best 2 hours you can have too. Literally the other day, I'm on my couch and I just looked up in the ceiling for like an hour. And I was like, wow, this is actually the coolest hour. And the time didn't feel like it moved. I felt like I was there for like 5 hours, only an hour. I'm like, that I need more of that in my life sometimes as well. It's okay to sometimes close the computer, turn off the phone, put away the readings, and just sit down. Sometimes just sitting down and have the absence of work and being present with yourself for just like an hour. I'm telling you that these small things, at least the big gains.
We were just talking earlier today with our friend Allie Rodman, who was also talking about embracing a pause and time to reflect. And hearing you talk, because I am also like, I have a planner and like what needs to be done and where do I focus and trying to be very intentional. And I know I don't do resolutions because I won't stick to a goal. I know me. So
Mhm.
I look at, what's my word that's going to help ground me moving forward. And so I'm curious with the, and I'm going to use the word discipline because I admire that in you because I aspire to be that. And I'm not there. I have a long way to go, but I'm listening to what you're saying about having a planner and just, but using that as the steps towards the goal, not the everything. And so I think my question is, as we go into a new year, um, do you take on resolutions? Do you think of a one word? Do you use something that grounds you? You've talked about your daily routines. Is there an overarching piece that kind of grounds you as we start a new year?
Yeah, absolutely. So, it's funny. So, yesterday I was telling my students, yesterday I said to them, like, do you know what day the gym makes them their most money? And all the kids said January 1st. I said, why is that? And, kids thought, oh, people say like, oh, I'm trying to lose 15 pounds this year. Oh, I'm trying to get more muscle this year. Oh, I'm trying to look, better this year for the summer or what have you, right? And I was like, what day that the people stop going to the gym? Like, oh, it's like January 7th, January 8th. Like, why is that? Or because people have already pulled back on that initial like buzz of getting to the gym and doing their that they've started to pull back on it. And so by the end of January, it's like people aren't even going to the gym and they got your money. And I told them that part, like they got your money. They got the $30 a month and they get that accrued every single month. So the gym's good. They're like, we made ours. And then like you're just paying $30. You're not even going to the gym anymore, but you're still paying in. You don't even know that you're paying it. And so, when I think about resolutions, I think about, and this is something I told my students too. I think about for them to start thinking about a success goal that you have in mind that you can track with many steps along the way. Think of a ladder. If the goal is on top, well, the top step of the ladder, you have to walk up the ladder. As you walk up the ladder, that means you've gotten another goal that you have achieved. And you're able to keep seeing those progresses making happen. So, for example, I had a student tell me, like, all right, my goal is to get like 0.15 seconds faster on my swim meet so I can be ranked in the like top 5 in the town and swimming for their age range. And so like, all right, what does that actually entail? And so like, all right, I have to change my eating. I have to stop eating the candy for right now. I need to eat more vegetables and more fruit. I need to practice more. To be honest, I'm only practicing once a week. I need to start doing that 3 times a week. And like instead of thinking I'm only 0.15 seconds faster, I need to think that I'm a race that I have to prepare for and get faster on that race. So I need to stretch my body out more and continue to practice in the swim meets. And I said, like that's how you do, your success goal. It's a goal that you're trying to reach that helps to get really to your overarching mission, but it's just like a one little step to get there. And then over those steps, it's just small little ladder steps or stairs that you're taking to get up to the next floor. That's what it all is. And so I think when we think about resolutions, sometimes we think about, all right, I'm from the bottom floor, I gotta get all the way to the top. And it's like, actually, we could think about from going from one step to the next, one step to the next. All right. One student told me, I want to just be able to do my homework and be done Thursday instead of Friday. And so instead of doing all my homework Thursday night, I want to do a little bit of homework on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Then she said, I got me a planner just like you did, and I'm going to write down the 30 minutes that I have available on these days, and that's when I'm going to do my homework. I said, that's the win right there. So now you have a success goal where you're going to achieve this because now you have a document that's keeping you accountable and you can measure your success. You can measure how successful you are in that goal. So that's really what it's all about. If you can measure it and you can keep track of it and keep yourself accountable, that's the win right there. Where we make our mistakes with our resolutions, that is difficult for us to really see and measure where that success is. And so we have that initial burst, that initial seal, but then it wanes, it becomes stale bread after a while.
You gonna make some folks a little upset because they're gonna be like, he was right. I ain't doing the gym no more. I literally was doing the research while you was talking. I was like, well, what other things do people quit? And so it says, like, yes, by the end of January, 50% of people, Americans, have ended their whole improved fitness, goal. Other things that come up like finances, mental health, losing weight, diet, other addictions. So it's really interesting uh, to consider.
Yeah, I've heard too that what they used to say was it takes 28 days to make or break a habit, but it's actually, is it 2 times that or like 45 days? Like it's much longer than what we were told, at least when I was told growing up.
Absolutely. And then the other thing about these goals and these like resolutions, things like that is when you think about like how, your measurements, right? Like, yeah, maybe you go to the gym for 6 weeks and maybe you do lose the 15 pounds. And it's like, now what?
Mm.
Right. And it's like, all right, what's the next step? Because if you keep doing the same thing, you're not going to get the results anymore. You actually have to change your regimen up in order to keep seeing the progress happen. Because your body also adapts to what you're doing. If you're just doing cardio all day, yeah, you might initially drop some pounds, and that's a big win, but then it plateaus. You have to constantly be changing up your strategies along the way. So that way it doesn't become stale bread, but that the zeal continues because you're seeing the results happen month to month. That's the big piece of these resolutions, these goals is being able to track your progress, but also know when you have to almost like pivot in a way to continue the progress forward, right? Because now you've maybe internalized a habit, but now the habit now at this point is not producing the results that it once did. And you're like, why is that the case? Well, because now you built in such a habit that now you're not adjusting to what the body needs or what the soul needs or what the mind needs now that you made this other adjustment. So now that you have the gym as the routine, now you got to do something else to keep the body from, falling off or having that plateau. You know what I'm saying?
So, do you have a goal that you have in mind for yourself? Because I'm thinking about all the things you're doing. You are working with your students, you're working on a doctorate, you're creating an educator pipeline for other Black male educators to continue to come into the field and make a mark and help our students thrive. You've got a lot on your plate right now, going out and elevating the status of other teachers and learning from them. What do you have in mind for yourself?
So there's a lot of goals. I'll give you one. So for school this year at Vanderbilt University, I'm in a doctorate program studying educational leadership and policy, K to 12 concentration, right? And so one of the goals this year is that in April, May, we're going to be taking our composition exam. This is basically an accumulation exam of the first 2 years of our doctorate program. So it's really compiling everything we learned from stats to, accountability to leadership, you name it, is putting it all into this big paper and this big research sort of activity. What I did was that I said, all right, I got this exam. It's going to come between late April and early May. I'm going to backwards plan this because, like I just said, we want to be able to measure success. So I said what the end goal was, and I had a backwards plan. I had to flip it. So I plan each week. Me and my colleagues, we're going to have study sessions on Sundays, and on these study sessions, we're going to cover a class and we're going to cover the main three topics that came from the class. And we're going to compile this into a document. And the document is going to be our study notes of literally everything that we've studied in that class for that particular week. We're going to compile into like a nice big document, right? And then I was like, you know what? We're going to need some accountability. So I asked one of my professors from one of the class, like, hey, can you come to one of the study sessions and help us lead a 60 to 90-minute session? He said, absolutely, I can. So now we have a professor coming in for one of them. He's going to help lead one of those sections on like improvement science. Then we have another professor who's going to come in for statistics and help us lead through some of the statistics problems and correlations and regressions and things like that. And that helps to, again, build the structure for reaching the end goal. But each week, we have just a small little goal that would mean is that whatever's the topic for that class and whatever's the main subjects, we're going to compile that into notes. And we have that all set up, ready to go. So now the anxiety for this test goes way down because now you have the plan and you have the measurement goals of what you need to in order to hit the plan, and you inserted accountability, got other people, professors coming in that kind of just keep things somewhat structured, but also the ability to have community as well while you're studying. So that's just one of the many goals, but I thought this would be a really good one because it requires some planning, some accountability, some people coming in to make sure that you're following through, and of course, are you able to track success each week, you know?
Absolutely. Thank you for that.
Of course.
Well, we see that, time is of the essence, and we want to make sure you can enjoy the remainder of your evening as we do this podcast. So, couple of things to close out. One is how, if people want to connect with you in any way, what would be the best ways for people to connect with you or stay, I guess, plugged into some of the great work that you're doing?
Absolutely. So, two main ways, two main platforms. I'm not really a big social media person, to be honest with you. I just don't really have the whole lot of time. But one social media platform I do use is LinkedIn. So you can just search me, Deshaun Washington, and be able to find me on LinkedIn. And I'm pretty active on there. I probably post maybe a couple times a week, posting anything from like what's going on in the classroom to highlighting the teacher to just highlighting some of the good stuff that's going on all around the country, really, as some literally all around the country these days. Be able to highlight some of those awesome stories for everyone. I also post on my YouTube channel as well. I'm going to change the name of it, but right now it's just my name, Deshaun Washington. If you search for that YouTube channel as well, I'm going to change it to Cultivating Changemakers at some point. And in that YouTube channel is going to be some teacher talks that I've done in the past. There's going to be some highlights of interviews. There's going to be some podcast appearances, other things like that. It just really talks about teaching and it talks about the concept of learning, some of the things we talked about here today, and other events that is going on in the world of being teacher of the year. You know what I'm saying? So those are the two main ways. I think the YouTube is really good and starting to get a little popular because there's videos and there's interviews. And of course, LinkedIn gives you more of the immediate interactions with me as well. So those are the two main ways that people get in touch and, and we'll be able to make connections there. And I'm more than happy to support, anyone that is looking to have, anyone to come in, to talk about teaching and talk about what it means to be an effective educator, be able to model for you, social emotional learning through restorative practices, what have you. So those are the best ways to reach me,
Nice. And it sounds like you also answered my second question, which was what do you believe is your SEL superpower?
Yes. I think my superpower here is I think it's really to help students be able to navigate conflicts. That I think is the biggest thing. It really starts with the seed planting the fact that you're going to have a conflict. Sorry to break it to you. It's so let's just call this right now. You're going to have a conflict, but I want you to also understand that there is actually steps and methods on how to solve it. I'll tell you this quick story. There was a student who something happened at at recess or at lunch, and I asked that student like, how's everything going? So he's like, I'm good, Mr. Washington. I'm doing real good. I'm having a good time. Then he goes home. He's crying to his mom like, this happened, that happened. And so I get this email. Bam! It's like all these things that happen. So I had to ask the student the next day. I said, yeah, come on, come here for a second. I was like, hey, I actually yesterday after lunch, how you doing? You said you was doing good, but then I get this email for all these other things, and he's like, oh, I didn't know how to approach you to. I was like, let me pause you right here, right? This learning thing, as awesome as math and reading and writing, all that stuff is, and this is so important, no doubt about it. That comes second to you. So I can always hit the pause button to help you resolve a conflict. Because actually, believe it or not, this is a conflict that with just a little bit of navigating, you'll be able to solve this actually pretty well. And I'll be right there with you. We'll be able to have like a little circle. I'll be there with you. And I can even coach you of what you need to say, how to say it. So now you have the being empowered to be able to approach those people about what happened and how you felt about that. And that student was able to do that. He's like, wow. At the end, he's like, it was just a big release off my chest. Thank you. But I said thank you to him for allowing me to help teach this aspect of being able to be a conflict resolver, resolving conflicts and being able to just have healing. He was carrying a burden for like a day or so. And it's like, hey, you don't need to carry that burden. There's things in school and life that's more important than learning how to do multiplication. We can always come back to this. But let me show you how to navigate this skill that you need for the next 60, 70, 80 years of your life. That's more important. And then we'll be able to have access back to the multiplication work when we're at the healing place. You know what I'm saying? So that, I think, is just one of the more important elements of the teaching and learning is recognizing that there's times where even in the midst of important teaching and learning of the instruction, the curriculum, there's also a time where we have to teach kids how to navigate life and being able to navigate the inevitable conflicts that we will ultimately run into at a young age. You're going to be very well equipped with doing this when you get older and you're becoming your own CEO of your business. I tell my students all the time, you are the CEO of your learning. And it starts with you being able to be CEO of being able to be a advocate for yourself. The learn is going to come. I promise you, the learn is going to come. But being able to do these other life skills, that's a lifetime right there.
Like a mic drop moment right there.
I know.
Yes.
All right, all right, all right. SEL and EDU family, we have to let the Dr. Washington go because he gotta rejuvenate for the next day. He got some young people who will be looking for him, and we don't want him to not be there because he just still kicking it with us, which is great, but gotta pour back into the young people. So we are incredibly honored that we've had this opportunity to chat with you and connect with you. We are sending well wishes on your full journey, and I am excited to just be in space. I know we are both, Krista and I are both, and we want to wish you continued success and thriving. We are two partners in the works, and in any ways we can be of resource to you, we also want to do that as well. All right, SEL and EDU family, thank you so much for listening in and plugging in. Please make sure you check out Mr. Washington and all of the wonderful work that he is doing. And until we meet again on these podcast streets, hold yourself quite dear and quite tight and continue to stand strong in the SEL light. We love you. Y'all take care.